you speak English? ¿Hablas español? 你会说中文吗? If you answered yes, sí, or 会, and you're watching this in English, chances you belong to the worst bilingual and multilingual majority. And besides having an easier time traveling or watching movies without subtitles, knowing two or more languages means that your brain may actually look and work differently than those monolinguals. So, what does it really mean to know a language? Language ability is typically measured into active parts, speaking and writing, and to passive parts, listening and reading. What a balanced bilingual has near equal abilities across the board into languages. Most bilinguals around the world know and use their languages in varying proportions. And depending on their situation and how they acquire each language, they can be classified into different types. For example, when children are exposed to two or more languages from their first birth, or the second language as a large number of contacts before the age of 3, we call it compound acquisition. While sequential acquisition occurs when children have fully acquired first language acquisition, usually around the age of 3. This happens, for example, when children move to a foreign country when they are young. Subordinate bilingualism refers to the situation where a person learns the second language to the detriment of the first language, especially if the first language is a minority language. In this case, mastery of the first language decreases, while mastery of the other language, usually the dominant language, increases. There are many misconceptions about how to train a bilingual baby. Sometimes parents dare not let their babies learn foreign languages early because they have heard that this can lead to confusion in the language of the baby and that brings delays in linguistic development. Some experts believe that studies have shown that bilingualism does not cause delays in the development of language or speech. Another misconception that needs to be clarified is that not only the ones who acquired a second language before the critical period can become bilinguals. Children are more efficient in acquiring a second language than young people and adults, and they are more likely to achieve the proficiency of a native speaker, especially if the acquisition starts before the 3rd year. But we cannot generalize everything, since a large number of experiments have shown that it's never too late to start learning a second language. The critical period hypothesis is the subject of a long-standing debate in linguistics and language acquisition over the extent to which the ability to acquire language is biologically linked to age. The hypothesis claims that there is an ideal time window to acquire language in a linguistically rich environment, after which further language becomes much more difficult and affordable. More and more studies have found that children born in a bilingual environment actually have an advantage in cognition, even when they are old, that can effectively delay the occurrence of Alzheimer's disease. Not only that, in a 2010 study of the behaviors of bilingual children and monolingual children, it was found that for children of primary school age, the problem of behavioral proficiency in bilingual children appeared later and less frequently than monolingual children. Some scientists have speculated that this is also a function of executive function. It can be seen that bilingual training has a very special role in the development of children's brains, and the dual positive impact on children's intelligence is worth our attention and research. Speaking two languages rather than just one has obvious practical benefits in an increasingly globalized world, but in recent years, scientists have begun to show that the advantages of bilingualism are even more fundamental than being to converse with a wider range of people. Being bilingual makes you smarter. It can have a profound effect on your brain, improving cognitive skills not related to language and even shielding against dementia in old age. Some parents, even if they do not speak a second language themselves, would all like to have their children contact multiple languages from an early age. This is because learning a lot of languages at a very young age would have great benefits for children's mental and intellectual development, as well as future academic and career development. Here we make a more comprehensive list. Compared with monolingual bilingual children have significant advantages in anti-jamming and concentration. Compared with monolingual children, bilingual children perform better and are more creative when planning and solving complex problems. In a bilingual family, parents and children should implement the one-person, one-language strategy. The so-called one-person, one-language is to avoid one person multilingual or many people multilingual so that the child can only come into contact with one language from one parent at a time. The one-person, one-language approach is a popular method adopted by parents attempting to raise simultaneous bilingual children. With the one-person, one-language approach, each parent consistently speaks only one of the two languages to the child. For instance, the child's mother might speak to him or her exclusively in French, while the father might use only English. Although the one-person, one-language strategy is feasible, there is no evidence that this is the only or best method. There is no evidence that this strategy can reduce children's language mix and transcoding. Parents don't need to worry that they can speak different languages to their children at the same time or use more than two languages in conversations can cause problems for children. To be in with the best chance of succeeding bringing up bilingual children, parents need to plan ahead and they need to plan how fluent do they want their children to be. They need to emphasize reading and writing activities, to decide who speaks what and when, and to discuss this in the family and agree on the goals. Once there is a plan, parents need to commit to it as a family and stay consistent in the language they use. My opinion about the importance of consistency is based on the findings that children from families where parents are consistent in their language use are more likely to become active speakers of both the languages of the family. If you manage to stick to your language with your kids, this is what they will expect you to speak to them all the time, and they will answer it in the same language. So, consistency is important, but also parents should not let the striving for consistency become something so rigid that it takes away the joy from speaking your language, or even worse, create a communication barrier. Once parents have a plan, they need to look into how much exposure the children get to each language. There is a general recommendation that children should be exposed to a language at least 30% of their waking time to naturally become bilingual. Find the motive. It is important that the child realizes that the minority language is spoken elsewhere, not only at home. They need to see that many people speak their language. If children can interact and play with their language, they will understand they need to speak the minority language. Having friends over or enrolling the child in a playgroup where the minority language is spoken will really help. Correct them. While it is important for children to be corrected, it is important to be careful not to crush their confidence. Children that are corrected too much in their second language will be reluctant to speak out of fear they will say something wrong. One way to correct can be to just rephrase nicely what they said so that they hear the correct way. Parents should not test their kids since learning a language should be fun and it shouldn't be something they need to be tested on. If children feel they are assessed or judged, they will no longer want to engage in the language.